Now let's work on the movies controller. Let's go to the Solution Explorer and let me collapse this, and let's go to controllers and let's add a new class. I'll say movies controller, and I will inherit from controller base control dot to bring this namespace route API movies and also API controller. Now I will use dependency injection to get a hold of the application DB context. I'll say context control dot to initialize it as a field. Also, I'll bring IMapper control dot mapper control dot field, and finally iFileStorageService and also FileStorageService control dot field. Now with these three services we are good to go. I will start working with the HTTP post because I will work with creating a movie. So I will say public async task action result. I'll say post, and of course, as always, we are going to receive a DTO. But since we're receiving an iForm file, because if you remember, we're going to get a poster for the movie, we're going to use from form. So let's say from form. Now I will create a DTO for creating a movie. So let's go to DTOs, add class, and let me say here movie creation DTO, and I will go to movie. Let me go to movie. I'll say movie here because I will copy all of this from here to here, and let's come back here actually to movie creation DTO, and let me paste this here. This is fine, though this is an iForm file. Control dot to bring this namespace because this is going to be a file that we're going to receive from the front end. But also, besides these properties, I have to receive the list of genres that we want to associate this movie with, and also the list of movie theaters and the list of actors. Now, because we're using from form here, we're going to have to help the model binder so that it can bind those lists that we're going to receive. So for that, we're going to use a custom model binder. So let's come to the Solution Explorer because I need to create a new class. Let me collapse this. I'll go to helpers, add new class, and I'll say type binder, and I will inherit from iModel binder control dot to bring this namespace and control dot again to implement the interface. Now I can delete this, and here we can say bar property name equal to binding context dot model name bar value. Now we're going to get the value that comes in the property value provider get value, and we're going to say property name, and then we're going to say the following. I'll say if value is equal to value provider result dot none, then we're just going to return task completed task, because if there is no value, then there is nothing that we have to bind. But if there is a value, then what I'm going to do is that I will deserialize that value. And for that, we are going to use the Newtonsoft library. So let's come to the Solution Explorer, right click here, manage NuGet packages. I'll say it is here, newtonsoft.json. I will install this package, and it has been installed. So let's close here and let's go back here. And now I can say deserialized value equal to JSON convert control dot to bring the Newtonsoft JSON namespace. Now we're going to deserialize an object, but to what type? We're going to let the model decide the type. So I will use generics here. I'll use generic here so that I can use generic here, and then I can pass the value. I'll say value, and I'll say first value, and that's it here. Now I will say binding context dot result equal to model binding result success, and finally I will pass our deserialized value. Now let me say try, because this could throw an error while deserializing, and I will say catch, and then I will say binding context model state try add model error. I'll say property name, and the error will be the given value is not of the correct type. Semicolon here, and finally we have to say here return task completed task. And that should be it. With this we're good to go. Now we can use our movie creation DTO with from form that will receive lists of objects. For example, let's say here list of int, which will be the list of genres IDs. And now we have to use our custom model binder. So I will say model binder control dot here. And then I will say binder type equal to type of. And I will say here type binder control dot to bring this namespace. And I will pass as a generic parameter the expected data type, which is a list of integers. So I will paste here the list of integers type. And that's it. If I send here, for example, an array of integers, that is going to be fine. But if I send something like an array of actors, then this will throw an error because that is not a valid data type. Now I will do exactly the same for movie theaters IDs. So I'll say here movie theaters IDs, and it is going to be exactly the same, but for the list of actors we have to use a class, because if you remember, the information of the actor that is related to a movie will also have the name of the character. So I have to create a new class, a new DTO. So let's create a new DTO here. I will say movies actors creation DTO. And here we're going to have two properties, which are going to be the ID. And here I will say a string character. And that's it. Now I'll copy this and I'll come back here. And in here I will say list of movies actors creation DTO. And I will just say actors. And here I will say, I'll copy this model binder and paste it here. But here I will have movies actors creation DTO. And in this way, we are able to send the information of the related entities. Now we're ready to continue working with the movies controller. Now let's say here movie creation DTO, and let's bring this namespace movie creation DTO. And here I will say the following. I will say bar movie equal to mapper map. I'll map to movie control dot to bring the entities namespace, and I will pass the movie creation DTO. I will say if movie dot poster is different than null, then we are going to use our file storage service to store the poster in the cloud. So I will say movie dot poster equal to await file storage service save file, and I want to pass first a container, and I want to have that container here. So I will say private string container, and I will say movies, and then I will put that here. Then I will pass the iForm file. So I will say movie creation DTO poster, and that's it. Now I need to annotate the orders of the actors. I want to modify the order property of the movie's actors entity so that we can store in the database the order in which they should appear in the movie details page. So let's say here annotate actors order, and I will say movie, and then I will say if movie. We don't have movies actors because apparently we forgot to put it here. So let me do just that. List movies actors, and that's it. Let's go to movies controller and let's say movies actors is different than null. Then, and in here we're going to say for movies actors count movies actors I order equal to I, and that's it. With this we are writing in the order property the order in which the actor came from the front end. Now I can come here and say annotate actors order, and I can pass the movie. Then I can say context add movie await context save changes async and return no content. Now we have finished working in the Movies controller for this method, but now we have to work with AutoMapper. So let's go to our AutoMapper profiles class because we need to configure the mapping rules. Now here let's say create map, movie creation DTO, movie, and then we're going to say for member, I want to ignore the poster property because that is something that we're going to handle ourselves. So let me say options, ignore. Now we're going to have to map manually movies genres, movie theaters movies, and movies actors. So let's start with movies genres. I will say here movies genres, and then I will say options. AutoMapper gives you the option to do the mapping yourself. So let's say map from, and here we're going to say map movies genres. I'll copy this and I'll come here and I will create a new method. I'll say private list movies genres, map movies genres, and I will receive as a parameter movie creation DTO, and movie and movie. Now let's do this. I'll say result equal to new list of movies genres. Then I will say if movie creation DTO dot genres IDs is equal to null, then we're just going to return, because if there are not any genres IDs, then there is nothing for us to do here. Otherwise, we're going to say for each ID in movie creation DTO dot genres IDs, and here I will say result at new movies genres, and then I will say here genre ID and ID here, and then I will return the result, and that's it. Now this is exactly what we have to do also for movie theaters. So let me say, I don't know why I put this comma here, so I will say for member, then I will say movie theaters movies, options, map from, map movie theaters movies. I'll copy this, then I'll come here and I will do the same. I'll say private list, then I'll say map movie theaters movies, and I will receive as a parameter movie creation DTO and movie creation DTO and movie, and I will put this in another line so that you can see it better. And then here I will do the following. I will say result new list movie theater movies, and then I will say if movie creation DTO movie theaters IDs is equal to null, then again we don't have anything to do here, so we will just return the empty list. Otherwise, we're going to say for each bar ID in movie creation DTO movie theaters IDs, and then we're going to say result at new movie theaters movies, and then we're going to say movie theater ID equal to ID, and then we're going to return the result. And finally, we're going to do the same again, but this time for actors. So we're going to say for member X movies actors, options, map from, map movies actors, semicolon here, copy this, I'll come here, and I will say private list movie actors, map movies actors, movie creation DTO, movie, then I will say bar result equal to new list movies actors, then I'll say if movie creation DTO movie actors is equal to null, then we're going to return result. Otherwise, we're going to say for each bar actor in movie creation DTO actors, and here I will say result at new movies actors, and here I will say actor ID equal to actor ID, and also character, actor, character, and that's it. Now we can return the result, and that's actually it. With this we can compile our application, and as you can see, the build has succeeded. In this video, we are going to start working with being able to create a movie. The first thing that we need is to get the information of the movie theaters and the genres that are going to be displayed in the page for creating a movie. So let's create here an HTTP GET endpoint. We're going to say post GET. Let's say here public async task action result of a DTO that we're going to create. So let's go to the Solution Explorer, DTOs, add new class. We're going to call it movie post get DTO. And in here we're just going to have two properties, which are going to be a list of genre DTO genres and also a list of movie theater DTO, and it's going to be called movie theaters, and that's it. Now I can copy this and come here and I can say post get, and then here I will say var movie theaters equal to context movie theaters dot to list async control dot bring this namespace, and we need to say await here. And let's do the same for genres. I will say genres equal to await context genres to list async, and now let's say var movie theaters DTO equal to mapper map to a list of movie theater DTO, and we're going to pass our movie theaters. And finally, let's say genres DTOs equal to mapper map list of genre DTO, and let's say genres here. Now we can return a new movie post get DTO, and we're going to pass genres DTO, and also movie theaters DTO. And before we leave this place, we need to go to post here because we made a mistake. Instead of movie, we should have said movie creation DTO. Now this will work correctly. Now let me press Ctrl F5 to run our application, and we are here in Google Chrome. So what we have to do now is to connect our create movie component with this postget endpoint that we just did. For that, let's go to Visual Studio Code and let's go to our create movie component, because the idea is that we have these non-selected genres and non-selected movie theaters here hard-coded in memory, but I don't want that. I want to have the real information of our database. So what we have to do is to use an use effect. So let me say here use effect, control dot, to import use effect. Then we're going to pass a function, and in here we're going to use Axios. So let me say here Axios control dot to import Axios dot get, and we're going to pass here backtick URL movies slash post get. We need to create these URL movies in our endpoints file, so let's go over there. Let me export const URL movies, and we're going to say here base URL slash movies semicolon here, and now let's go back here and let me import that from the endpoints file. Now let me say here then, and we're going to say response Axios response control dot to import that, and we are going to receive a data type called movies post get DTO. We don't have that, so let's go to movies model.d.ts, and in here we're going to come down here and say export interface movies post get DTO, and in here we're going to receive genres, which is an array of genre DTO, and then movie theaters, which is an array of movie theater DTO. And I need to import this, so let me come up here, import this from, and let me go back, genres model, and let me do the same for import movie theater DTO from movie theater model. And now we have then that this is genre DTO and movie theater DTO. Okay, so let me copy this and let's come here and let me say movie post get DTO. Let me import that and let me put here a body. So let me say that I need to have this as state variables. So let me delete this. I don't need it anymore. I will just come up here and say const non-selected genres set non-selected genres equal to use state control dot, and this will be genre DTO array, and by default this will be an empty array. I will do the same for non-selected movie theaters set non-selected movie theaters use state movie theater array, and this should be DTO. Let's close here and empty array as a default value. Let me put this in another line so that you can visualize it better. Now let's come here and I want to say set non-selected genres, and I will pass response data genres, then set non-selected movie theaters, and we're going to pass response data movie theaters. Now I need to hide this movie form before we load this information, so I will just say here const loading set loading equal to use state equal to true, because by default this is loading. Then I will say here set loading false. Then I will say here I will use a ternary operator. I will say loading, and if it is loading I will use our loading component. Otherwise we are going to display the movie form component, and that should be enough here, except that we need to pass the non-selected genres and non-selected movie theaters, which are being passed. So we should be good to go. We should be able to save. Let's come back to Google Chrome. Let me refresh. And as you can see, we have in genres, we have our action, adventure, and so on. And in movie theaters, we have Agora and Sambil, which means that indeed we are displaying the genres and movie theaters of our database. In the next video, we're going to work with our type ahead of actors. But we need to go back to Visual Studio Code, and in here, in this use effect, we must not forget to add an empty dependency list so that this use effect only runs once. Let's now work on our actors type ahead component. The idea is the following. We are here in our create movie screen, and in here we have this actors type ahead. If I write FE, we can see that we have Felipe and Fernando, but we remember that those actors are hard-coded in our source code. So what we want to do is to change this type ahead for an asynchronous type ahead so that we can asynchronously get these actors from our web API. Then after that, we are going to go to our web API to create a new endpoint from which we will be able to, from whatever we write here, we are going to get the top 5 actors that has a name with the string that I write here. So let me go to Visual Studio Code and start working. So first what I will do is that I will delete this from here because we don't need that anymore. Then, as I was saying, I will change our type ahead for an async type ahead. So let me say here async type ahead. Now I need to import that from here. Let me change this to async type ahead. Now let's go down here and let's get to work. Let me come down here. So here we have actors which we just deleted. We're going to recreate it in just a moment. I need to say here filter by is going to be a function that returns true. Why is that? Because in this way I am telling to the type ahead that we already did the filtering, which is something that we will do in the web API. That is why I need to say that this is already filtered. Something else that I want to add is loading attribute here, which we are going to match with a is loading a state variable that we're going to define in just a moment. Also, I want to say on search, which is a function that will run when we try to search for an actor. So handle search. It is through this function that we will create that we're going to consume the web API using Axios to get the actors that corresponds to whatever the user is writing on the type ahead. And let me delete these console log actors because we don't really need it anymore. And that should be it here. Now let me create these three elements that we need. Let's start with actors. So let's come here, and in here I will say const actors set actors equal to use state actor movie DTO array, and by default this will be an empty array. Alright, the second thing is that is loading, so is loading set is loading equal to use state. This will be a bool, and by default this will be false. And finally we need to work on our handle search function. So let me say here function handle search, and let me open parentheses, and I will say here query a string. Then I will say here set is loading equal to true, because at this point we're going to issue an HTTP request to our web API. I will say Axios control to import that get, and I need to get a hold of the URL of actors. So let me say URL actors control to import that from endpoints slash search by name slash, and here I will put the query, which is whatever the user is writing into the type ahead. Now after that we're going to say then, and I will say response like this, Axios response control to import Axios response, and we expect to receive actor movie DTO array, and in here we will say this. Then set actors equal to response data, and finally set is loading false. Alright, that should be enough. Now all that we have left to do is to go to the web API and include a new endpoint that will allow us to send whatever the user wrote on the type ahead and return some actors that match that name. So let me go to Visual Studio. We are here in our actors controller, and here we are going to look for a spot like here to say HTTP get, and we're going to say search by name slash query, and then we're going to say public async task action result list actors movie DTO, and we're going to create a DTO in just a moment. Let me close this here, and let me say search by name a string query, and that query, this parameter that we have here, corresponds to whatever the user writes on the type ahead. So let me create this DTO. Let me copy this. Let's come here, right click on DTOs, add class. Let me paste this here, and let me say here ID string name, and also the picture of the person. This is the information that we're going to need in our front end: the name of the person, its ID, and also the picture of the actor. So let me go back here, and now I want to say the following. I want to say if a string is null or white space query, I want to say return new empty list of actors movie DTO. Of course, because if this is empty or null, then I won't make a query. So I will just return an empty list. Otherwise, I will say return await contest actors dot where, and I'm going to say xName contains, I'm going to check if the name of the actor contains whatever the user sent here. Like if the user sent Felipe, then we're going to look for actors named Felipe Gavilan, Felipe Marrero, and so on. So let me say here then, order by, I will order by name, so xName. I will do a select. I want to do a transformation. I won't use AutoMapper because this is a really small function, so I will just say new actors movie DTO. I will say ID equal to x.id, then name equal to x.name, and finally picture equal to x.picture. Then we're going to say take 5. Why am I saying take 5? Because I don't want to display hundreds or thousands of actors in our type ahead, so I will just display a small number like 5. And finally, to list async to transform this into a list. And that's it. This is the endpoint that we wanted to build. Now let me press Ctrl F5 to run our application, to run our web API, and we should be good to go. Let me now then go to Google Chrome. Let's come here, let me refresh, and let's see that if we go to actors, we have Samuel L. Jackson and Tom Holland. So let me try to get those actors. So Tom, and we have here Tom Holland, and if I write Samuel, we will have Samuel L. Jackson. Now if we press F12, we are going to see that we have an error here. The reason of the error is that our character property that comes from the web API is null or undefined. If we go here and we go to the movie form component, we're going to see that we're using the character property in this input that we have here. We're using the character here in value character. So we need to make it an empty string. We can do that here in the onChange of the async type ahead. So let me say here actors 0 character empty string, and that's it. Semicolon here, let me save, let's come back here, let me refresh just in case, F12, and let's see that if I write Tom and I click on it, you can see that we don't have any errors. Same for Samuel. Click on here, and as you can see, we don't have any errors here. Now let's work on creating a movie. Let's now create a movie. But remember that here we are using a poster, which is a file, which means that we need to use foreign data. But before that, we forgot to add a field here, which is called summary. So let me go to Visual Studio Code, let's go to the movie form component, and in here we can quickly add a summary field. We can do that here below our image field. So let me say markdown field, and in this markdown field I can pass display name summary and then field, which is also going to be summary. Then I can go to models, to movies model.ts, because I need to add that new summary field. So summary here in the movie creation DTO optional string, and that's it. Now let's work on creating a movie. Let me close this, and let's see that here we have our summary field, by the way. Now let's go back here, and we are in the create movie component. As we said before, we're going to use foreign data. So let me say here async function create movie creation DTO control dot to import that try, and then catch error, and then in here we are going to use our form data. So for that I need to go to the form data utils file, and for that I need to go to our form data utils file, so form data utils, and then let's go down here, and in here I will say export function convert movie to form data. Then I will receive a movie of type movie creation DTO control dot to import that, and then in here I will create a form data instance and I will return that form data instance. Now in the middle we're going to add the respective fields of our movie creation DTO. So let me say here form data append title movie title semicolon here if movie summary. Then we're going to say here form data append summary and movie summary semicolon here. Then form data append trailer movie trailer form data append in theaters a string movie in theaters because this is a boolean and we need to transform it into a string. Then if movie release date, we're going to use our format date function which we did before. So form data append then release date comma format date movie release date semicolon here. If movie poster form data append poster movie poster semicolon here. Now let's say here form data append genres IDs comma JSON stringify movie genres IDs. And let me clone this twice because I need to work with movie theaters IDs, and then here I will put movie theaters IDs, and then here I will put actors, and here I will say actors, and that should be good enough. Now let me use this convert movie to form data. Here let me say const form data equal to convert movie to form data, and I will pass the movie. And now let me import that. Then after that I will say await Axios, and I will pass an object method post, then URL, and here I will say URL movies comma data form data, and headers will be equal to content type multi-part form data. And then after that I will redirect the user into a route in which we are going to have the details of the movie. We haven't built that just yet, but let's just leave that in place. So let me come up here and let me say const history, use history control dot to import that. And now let's go back down here and I need to put this in a response. So now I can say history push movie slash, and here I can put, and this should have been a backtick, so let me change this to backtick. And now in here I will say response data, because this data is supposed to be the ID of the movie that we just created. If we go back to Visual Studio and we go to the movies controller, we're going to see that our post endpoint returns the ID of the movie, as you can see here. So I can use this ID in order to go to movie slash the ID of that movie. Again, we haven't built this just yet, but now this will be in its place. Then I can handle the errors, so let's come up here and let's use a state variable. So const errors set errors equal to use state a string array and then an empty array. Then let's come down here and in here I can say set errors error response data, and that should be enough for here. Let me copy this and let's come here to this onSubmit and let me say async and then await create values, and finally let me below this title put the display errors component, so errors, and that should be enough. Now let's go to Google Chrome and let's make a test. Let me refresh this page, let me say something like Spider-Man Far From Home, and then let me say here in theaters, let me look for a trailer in YouTube. I am here in YouTube, Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. Right click here, copy link address, and let me paste that here. In release date, I will put whatever date. In poster, I will choose a Spider-Man Far From Home poster. Then in here, I will just say ASD. Then here, I will say action and adventure. And it will be in Agora and Samville. And for actors, I will choose our two actors, Tom Holland, and this one is called Samuel L. Jackson. And now, let me say here, Peter Parker, and then Nick Fury, and I will say save changes. And as you can see, I was redirected back to the landing page. Why is that? Because remember, since we haven't built our movie details component, the component that will have the details of the movie, we got a 404 and then we were redirected back into the landing page. But if we go to SQL Server Management Studio and we go to Movies API and we go to Movies, right click here, select Top 1000, we are going to see that indeed we have a movie with its title, the summary, trailer, in theaters, release date, and poster. And if we go to Movies Actors, we're going to see that we have Actor ID 1 and 2, Movie ID 2, Peter Parker and Nick Fury, Order 0 and 1. And for genres, we should have two genres, which are the genres of ID 3 and 7. And finally, for movie theaters movies, we should have again our two movie theaters, which are the movie theaters of ID 1 and 2, which means that indeed we were able to create a movie and all of its related data. Now let's work on that movie details functionality. In this video, we are going to start working with a new screen for our application. In that screen, we are going to be able to see the details of a movie. So we will be able to see the title, the release date, the poster, the trailer, the genres, the movie theaters, and so on. So let's get to work. First, we need an endpoint here in our movies controller. So I will say here HTTP GET, and I will have a route parameter here, ID, public async task action result, and here we're going to have a movie DTO. So let's create that DTO. Let's come here, add class movie DTO, and in here we are going to copy and paste all of the properties of our movie entity. So let me copy all of this up the poster, then let's come here and let me paste this. I will remove these attributes from here, and here we are going to say list of genre DTO, and we're going to say genres, and also let's say here list movie theater DTO and movie theaters here. And finally we're going to say list of actors movie DTO, and we're going to say actors here, and we're going to come to actors movie DTO and we're going to add a string character so that we can return the character of the movie. Now we have our movie DTO class ready, so let's go to movies controller, and here we're going to say movie DTO, and we're going to say get int ID here, and then we're going to say movie equal to await context movies, and we're going to say include, let's start with movies genres, then include, and we're going to say genres, or genre in this case. What we're doing here is that we're bringing the information of the movies genres table and also including the information of the genre. Now let's say include, and let's do the same for movie theaters movies, then include X movie theater, and finally let's say include, let's do the same for actors, movies actors, then include actor, and let's say now first or default async, and we're going to say ID equal to ID. And now let's say if movie is equal to null, then we're going to say return not found. Otherwise, we're going to use AutoMapper because I want to map to a movie DTO object. So let's say mapper map movie DTO, and we're going to pass the movie. Now let me say DTO actors equal to DTO actors order by, and I want to order by order, and we don't have order, so let's come here, let's come to actors F12, and let me also include order, because in this way we are going to be able to order by this field. So let me say here to list, and finally let's say return DTO, and that's it. This endpoint is done. Now what we have to do is to work with the configuration of AutoMapper for the mapping of movie to movie DTO. So let's go to AutoMapper profiles and let's get to work. Let's come down here, and in here we're going to say create map movie to movie DTO, and let's do the following. I will say for member, and we're going to say X genres options, and we're going to use map from because we need to do a custom mapping. We're going to say map movies genres, and now let me copy this and let's come here, and I will say private list of genre DTO map movies genres, and I will have here movie, and movie DTO, and then let's get to work. I will say here result equal to new genre DTO, and then I will return that at the end result, and in the middle we're going to say if movie dot movies genres is different than null, then we're going to say for each genre movie dot movies genres, and then here we're going to say result at new genre DTO ID equal to genre ID, and name equal to genre again dot name. As you can see, this is why we had to include the then include method here, because only by using the then include we have access to the information of the name of the genre. Now we are done with this one, so let's do the same for movie theaters and also for actors. Let's go for movie theaters, options, map from, map movie theaters movies. I will copy this, then let's come here and I will say private list movie theater DTO map movie theaters movies movie and movie DTO, and let's get to work. We're going to do basically the same here. We're going to say result equal to new list movie theater DTO, then we're going to return result, and in the middle we're going to say if movie dot movie theaters movies is different than null, then we're going to say for each, and we're going to say movie theater movies, and we're going to say here movie theaters movies, and here we're going to say result at new movie theater DTO, and we're going to say ID equal to movie theater movies dot movie theater ID. Also let's say name equal to movie theater movies movie theater name, and let's do the same for latitude movie theater movies movie theater location Y, and finally longitude equal to movie theater movies movie theater location X. And that should be it. Let me put a semicolon here, and now we have to do the same for actors. Let's say actors, and let's say here options map from map movies actors semicolon here, and let me copy this and let's come here. Let's say private list actor movie DTO map movies actors movie and movie DTO. And now let's do the same. Let's say result equal to new list actors movie DTO, then return result, and let's say here if movie dot movies actors is different than null, then we're going to say for each movies actors, then movies actors, and let's say here result add new actors movie DTO, and let's say here ID equal to movies actors actor ID. Then let's say name movies actors dot actor dot name. Then character movies actors character. Also picture movies actors actor picture. And finally, let's say order movies actors order. And that should be it. With this, we are good to go. Let me compile our application. So let's see that we don't have any errors. Now let's go to Google Chrome. I just want to make a small test here. I will say API/movies/2 in our case. And let's see what we have here. As you can see, we have Spider-Man Far From Home, the summary, the trailer, in theaters, release date, the poster, the genres, action and adventure, movie theaters, and Bill and Agora, and the actors Tom Holland and Samuel L. Jackson, each one with their respective picture and respective character. So we are good to go here. Now let's go to our front end to get to work. In this video, we are going to work with our details movie component here in React. So what we are going to do first is that we are going to come to this movie's model DTS, and in here we want to update this movie DTO because we are going to use it, and as you can see, it only has three properties: ID, title, and poster. So what I will do is that I will take this from here and I will copy everything, and I will just paste it here, and I will delete poster and poster URL because we don't need those. And I'm going to make release date non-optional, and that should be it from here. Though this should be actually genres, and this should be movie theaters, and this shouldn't be optional, neither this or this. And of course genres should be genre DTO, and this should be, and let me copy it from here, movie theater DTO, and actor should be actor movie DTO. So let me say import actor movie DTO from actors model, which has actor movie DTO has ID, name, character, and picture, which is just enough information to display an actor. Now let me save here, and now let's go to our Explorer because here I want to create a new component here in movies. So let me say right click, new file, movie details.tsx, enter, and in here we're going to create a new component, export default function movie details, and this is not going to have any parameters. I will say return, and in here we're going to get to work. Now before that, let me copy this and let's go to route config because I need to define the route for this component. So I will come here and I will clone this and I will say movie and then the ID of the movie, so ID, and we're going to make it a number, so D plus, and then here I will say movie details, and I will copy this and I will come up here and I want to say import this from movies movie details semicolon here. So we have the route of our movie details component defined. Now let's go to movie detail and let's get to work. In this page we are going to display the name of the movie, or the title actually, the poster, the trailer, the actors, the genres, the movie theaters, and everything that we have done so far. So first what I need to do is to use a useEffect so that we can retrieve the information of the movie from the web API. So let me say here useEffect control dot to import that, and we're going to put a function here, and we're going to say Axios control dot to import Axios, and let me say get backtick here URL movies control dot to import that slash, and I need the ID of the movie, so let me get that right away. So const ID of type any equal to use params control dot to import that, and then I will say here ID, and then I will say here then response Axios response control dot to import Axios response, as this will be of type movie DTO, control dot to import movie DTO, and then we're going to put an arrow function here, and then I want to come here and say const movie set movie, because we need a state variable for the movie, so we're going to say use state control dot to import that movie DTO, and this will be undefined by default, so we're going to say here set movie, and we're going to pass response data semicolon here. And something else that we need to do is to format our release date field as a date, so let me say here response data release date equal to new date response data release date semicolon here. Alright, so before we forget, let me put an empty brackets here, because otherwise this function will get executed basically every single time the user does anything in the screen, so we shouldn't have that. That is not convenient to us. So let me put here this ID, because this is a dependency of this useEffect. Now let's go down here in the return, and I want to use a ternary operator. I will say movie. If it is truthy, then I will use a div and I will do all of our UI here. Otherwise, let me say loading. We're going to put the loading component meanwhile this is loading. So let's get to work. Alright, so what we're going to do here is that we're going to put the movie title. So let me say h2, then we're going to say movie title, and alongside the title I want to put the release date's year. So let me say movie release date get full year. Now let me save and let's see how we're doing. If we go to Google Chrome, we're going to see that we have an error, because in the landing page component we are instantiating a movie DTO, but we just modified that interface to add some properties. Therefore, the best thing that we can do is to just go back to the landing page and comment out that code, because we're actually not going to need it anymore, because soon we're going to bring this from the database. So let me just delete this, not just comment it out but delete it. Let me delete this also, and that should be fine. And in here, in this useEffect, now that we are here, let me put an empty dependency list here so that we don't have this executing several times. So let me save and let's go back here and everything should be working. So let's go back here and let's refresh. And now as you can see, it is not loading because we just removed the set movies, but that is fine. What I want to do is to go to /movie/2, because 2 was the ID of our movie, and as you can see we have Spider-Man Far From Home and the year it was released, allegedly of course. But despite that movie inaccuracy, we can go back here and continue working with our React application. Now let's come here, and below the H2 I want to include some genres. So let me say here movie.genres map, and here I want to say genre, and in here I will put a link. So let me say link. Let me close here, and here I will put genre name. Then I will say here key genre ID. We need a key because we're using a map. Then we're going to say style margin right 5 pixels. After that, we're going to use some classes. Class name. We're going to say button primary, button SM, rounded PL, and finally we're going to say to, and we're going to use an expression backtick / movies filter genre ID equal to the genre ID. What are we doing here? Well, remember that we have a filter component, right? So what we want to do is that we will have the genres here on the screen, like action and adventure, and if I click on action, I want to be redirected to the filter movies component, and I want the action filter to be already applied over there. That is why I am putting genre ID equal to the ID of the genre here. Of course, we haven't built this functionality in the movies filter, so this won't work, but we at the very least have the link in place. So let's continue. After this, I want to put a pipe Alt-124 in Windows, and then I want to say movie release date and to date string. Save, and let's see how we're doing. We have the release date here. Then let's go back here and let's continue working. Below this, I want to put a div, so div, and we're going to put here now the poster and the trailer. So I will use flexbox. So let me say here display flex margin top 1 rem, so 1 rem here. Then inside of it I will have a span. I will say style display inline block and margin right 1 rem, and then inside of this span I want to have an image, and this image is going to be the poster. So src expression movie poster. After that I can put a style and the dimensions of this, so 225 pixels and height 315 pixels, and finally alt poster. And that should be it for the image. Now after the span I want to have a ternary operator because I want to say movie trailer. In case it is not null, then we will put a div here. This should be a slash div and div here. Otherwise we're going to put null because we don't want to put anything if there is no movie trailer. So in here I want to say iframe, and here we're going to put a few attributes like title, YouTube trailer. This is an iframe that we're going to use to display the YouTube video of the trailer here in our application. So we're going to say width 560, height 350, src, and we're going to work with the src in just a moment. Then frame border 0, allow, accelerometer, autoplay, encrypted media, semicolon, gyroscope, semicolon, picture in picture. Alright, and the last one, allow full screen. Alright, so now let's work on the src. We're going to create a function that will transform the URL of the YouTube video into a URL for embedded video of YouTube. So let's come here because we want to create a function. So function generate embedded video URL, and let me say here trailer string, and we're going to return a string, and we're going to say if trailer return an empty string. Otherwise we're going to say let video ID equal to trailer split, and this should be just 1t, and here I will say be equal, and then the second part of it. This will allow me to get the video ID const ampersand position equal to video ID index of ampersand semicolon here if there is an ampersand, so ampersand position is different than -1, then we're going to say video ID equal to video ID substring 0 until the position of the ampersand position, and then we're going to return this URL semicolon here. And now we're going to use this function here in this expression that we put here. So let me say generate embedded video URL movie trailer, and that should be enough. Let me save. Let's come back here and let's see that now we have the poster here at the left and the video here at the right. So let's continue in the next video. Alright, so let's continue. Let's go back here to the movie details component, and below this div that we have here, we need to put the summary. So let me say here expression movie summary ternary operator. Then we're going to put a div here, and let me close it. And now we are going to put a style here, which will be actually an object, margin top 1 rem, and then after that, let me say here a 3 summary, and then we're going to use a div here, and let me close the div, and finally here we're going to say React Markdown, which is the component that we install in order to render Markdown content. So let me say here movie summary. Now after this div I need to put colon here null. Now after this, let me put here an expression because we want to work with the movies. So movie actors and movie actors length greater than 0 ternary operator, and here I will put a div, and we are going to close that div, and after that we are going to put a null. So let me organize that and let's get to work on this section of our component. So let me say here style margin top 1 rem, and inside of that div we're going to say h3 actors, and after that we're going to say div, and we're going to close that div. Not sure why Visual Studio Code is not doing that automatically, but okay. So style, and let me say here display flex direction column. So here what we're going to do is that we're going to display in a column fashion the list of actors. We're going to display their name, their picture, their character, and so on. So let me say here movie actors map actor, and we're going to say here another div, and let's close that div. Then let's say here key actor ID, then a style margin bottom 2 pixels, and inside of it we're going to put the picture of the actor. So let me close this here and let me say alt pic, and we're going to say src expression actor picture. After that we're going to put the style of the picture, so style width 50 pixels, this should be a string 50 pixels, and vertical align middle. And after that we have to put a span for the name of the actor, so span actor dot name, and in the span we're going to say style object display inline block comma width 200 pixels, and let me put that in another line so that you can visualize everything. And after that I need to say margin left 1 rem, and that's it for the name. After that span we have to come here and say another span dot dot dot, because this will be the separator between the name of the actor and its character name. So style again display inline block and then comma width 45 pixels, and finally, and let me organize everything, finally span actor dot character. Alright, so we are good to go on that. Let me save and let's see how we are doing. You can see that we have the summary ASD and the actors Tom Holland, Peter Parker, and Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury. Alright, so there is only one more thing that we have to put here, and it is the map. Because remember that there are some movie theaters that we want to let the user know that are where the movie is being displayed. So let me say here expression movie theaters, and movie theaters length greater than 0 ternary operator div, and let me expand here, and after the div I will say null. Now here I will say h2 showing on, and then after that I will use the map component. So let me say here map, and I want to bring our map So map. Now I want to pass the coordinates, and the coordinates are going to be a transformation that we will do. So let me come up here and let me create a new function here. Let me say function transform coordinates, and let me return a coordinate DTO array, and let me open the function, click here, and let me import that. I will say if movie theaters const coordinates equal to movie theaters map movie theater arrow function return an object as coordinate DTO. Then here I want to say lat movie theater dot latitude launch movie theater longitude, and I want to include the name of the movie theater. So we are going to expand our coordinate DTO interface. So we will say here movie theater dot name, and then let me press F12 here in the coordinate DTO so that I can add name here, which will be optional. A string, semicolon here, save. Let's go back here. And now that is done, now after this I can put a semicolon here and return coordinates, semicolon here, and here return an empty string, just in case. And let me take this and let's come down here to map coordinates and let me pass this. And this is great. Now we see we have an error here because it says that we're missing handle map click. So let me come here and let me give it a default value. So I can say here handle map click, which will be just an empty function basically. So save here and save here, and let's go back here and let's see that now we have our two movie theaters. Now we need to work on some things. For example, if I click on here, you can see that the other markers disappear, and we don't want that. So what we want to do is to introduce a read-only state for our map component. So we're going to say read-only equal to true, and now let me add that property inside of the map component. So here I will say read-only, which is a boolean, and by default this will be false. So let me say here comma read-only false. Why is it going to be false by default? Well, because we already did a map in the past and I don't want to alter that. I don't want to break that functionality, so I decided to make this the default state. So let's come here, and here we are going to use a ternary operator. We're going to say props read-only. If it is read-only, then we are going to say null. Otherwise, if it is not read-only, then we are going to allow this map click to exist. Now let me save, and let me save here also, and let's go back here and let me refresh. And now if I click on here, you can see that nothing is happening. Nothing is happening, although I can drag. I cannot click here, or I can, but nothing happens because we are in read-only. Now I want to see the name of this movie theater and this movie theater. So let's work on that. Let me come back here, let's go to map, and in here, in this coordinates map, we have a marker. Now, inside of the marker, we can put the information that we want to have been displayed on the pop-up. So what I have to do here is to say expression coordinate dot name ternary operator, and I will say here pop-up, and then here pop-up. Control dot to import that, but from React Leaflet, and then here I want to say coordinate dot name, and after that null. Now let me save and let's come back here and let's see our component in all of its glory. So let's see that we have the name, the genres, the date, we have here the poster and the trailer, the summary, the actors, and here we have our movie theaters. If I click on here, I have Agora, and if I click on this one, I have some bills. So as you can see, we have our movie details component in place.